I've got a powerful story to share with you today, one that might resonate deeply with you. We'll meet Connor Lawson, a guy who nearly loses his life, meets up with his deceased father, and receives an unexpected message from Jesus about the hardships faced by good people. His remarkable experience offers some profound insights, and trust me, you'll want to hear what he discovered. Before we jump in, don't forget to hit that like button, subscribe, and turn on those notifications so you catch all our future stories. Buckle up, this might just change your perspective on a few things. So let me introduce myself. I'm Connor Lawson, a 38-year-old mechanic working in a shop over in Spokane, Washington. Honestly, I'm just your average guy who navigates life's ups and downs like everyone else. I grew up in a regular middle-class home, went through school, graduated, and got a job. Nothing too remarkable. For a long time, I saw myself as a staunch atheist. I had zero belief in God or any afterlife. To me, those concepts felt like myths that people invented to handle the notion of death. My world was all about logic and science. Spirituality never crossed my mind. Then came March 15, 2017. What began as an ordinary day took a dramatic turn that changed everything. Back then I was single and looking forward to my first date with someone named Ava Brooks, who I had met on a dating app. I was a bundle of nerves and excitement, feeling like something significant was about to unfold. If you had told me that morning that my life was on the brink of a monumental shift, I would have laughed it off. But isn't it amusing how life throws us curveballs? That night evolved into an experience I couldn't have imagined. It turned my beliefs upside down and forced me to reconsider everything I once accepted as truth. I should be clear, I'm not someone who craves attention or relishes sharing outlandish tales. I wrestled with the decision to share this part of my life for quite a while, but I believe it's worth telling. Not to convince anyone of anything, but because it genuinely altered my life in ways I can hardly describe. When I recount this, it might sound far-fetched, but I assure you, it's as real as it gets. Before that night, I might have been the first to brush it off, but it happened to me, and I can't deny it. I want to tell you about an experience that completely transformed my view on life, a near-death encounter that brought me face to face with the afterlife. Trust me, this is a story worth hearing. It'll take you on a journey from the vibrant edge of living to the shadowy boundary of death and back again, fundamentally altering everything I once believed about our existence. So, it all began on a Saturday in March 2020. I rolled out of bed earlier than usual, greeted by sunlight streaming through my window. There was an inexplicable feeling of optimism in the air. Maybe it was because I was eagerly anticipating my dinner with Sarah. Who knows? My day unfolded like any other, engulfed in the routine grind of being a software developer. I poured through lines of code, tackled challenges head-on, and darted in and out of meetings. Pretty standard stuff. As the hours passed, that nervous excitement about meeting Sarah began to creep in. She was truly impressive, and I wanted everything to go perfectly. Finishing up some tasks, I clocked out a bit earlier than usual, around 4:30 p.m., and made my way home to prepare. Ritualistically, I took a lengthy shower, selecting my clothes with care. I opted for a smart casual look, a black polo, khakis, and a light jacket. After spritzing on my go-to cologne, I threw one last glance at my reflection. I was ready. Around 6:30 p.m., I set out from my apartment. My plan was to swing by Sarah's place first before heading to a new burger joint that had just opened downtown. Climbing into my blue Toyota Corolla, I hit the road, taking in the peaceful Spokane streets. The night was warm, the stars were bright, and with the roads relatively clear, I cranked up the radio and began to tap my fingers to the music, feeling pumped for the night ahead. Time zipped by before I even realized it. I was buzzing in my thoughts as I neared Sarah's street, a quiet neighborhood filled with lovely homes. I eased off the gas, peering for her house number, when, in an instant, everything shifted. Just like that, bright headlights surged toward me from nowhere. My heart raced as I heard tires screeching against the asphalt. Those blinding lights were closing in, and then everything went black. It was surreal. I can't quite explain what happened next. There was no pain, no sound of a collision, just a sudden plunge into a void, as if a switch had been flipped. One moment, I was just cruising along, and the next, I was engulfed in darkness. I had no idea what was happening when a speeding vehicle suddenly blurred into my lane. The impact was so severe that later on, medical professionals would deem my survival nothing short of miraculous. In that moment, all I could comprehend was that I'd been thrust into an oppressive silence, a void where everything familiar faded away. This darkness marked the beginning of my surreal journey, one that would shift my perceptions of existence, mortality, and whatever lies beyond. What struck me first was how completely quiet it was. I mean, it was an eerie kind of silence, one that felt almost tangible. There was not a hint of sound, no whispers of background noise, no rustle of life. It was as if sound itself had been swallowed whole. I attempted to open my eyes, hoping for a glimpse of light, but all I found was an impenetrable blackness. This wasn't the typical dark room filled with fleeting shadows. This was an all-consuming void. Panic began to set in. I felt an overwhelming urge to move, yet I couldn't even perceive my body. There was no warmth, no chilly breeze. It was as if I'd become a mere thought drifting through a relentless expanse of emptiness. I wanted to scream for help, but either no sound escaped my lips or the silence smothered it entirely. I was engulfed by a growing despair. Where exactly was I? What had transpired? Was I in fact dead? I couldn't gauge how long I lingered in that disorienting state. Minutes, hours, days. Time was meaningless. I found myself oscillating between paralyzing fear and unexpected moments of serene acceptance. During those fleeting calm intervals, vivid memories cascaded through my mind like a film strip unspooling. I revisited snapshots from my childhood, heartwarming times with my parents, and the ups and downs of school life. My entire existence flickered by me in a blink, a blend of joy and regret that felt surreal. Then a wave of grief washed over me as I thought of my mother, Leah Bennett, who had passed a few years back. That recollection struck me hard, akin to a sucker punch. I realized I hadn't fully processed her loss. I was still grappling with a tidal wave of anger and sorrow. I remembered my skepticism towards fate and the afterlife. I used to mock others for their beliefs, feeling superior for rejecting what I deemed naive fantasies. Yet, here I was, enveloped by darkness, lost and uncertain of whether I was even alive or had crossed into the realm of the dead. An overwhelming isolation washed over me, leaving me feeling abandoned in this vast expanse of nothingness. Just when I thought I had hit rock bottom, something unexpected happened that changed everything for me. You see, I was never the kind of person to believe in anything that wasn't tangible, nothing beyond what I could actually see. But there I was, taking a leap I never thought I would. I started to pray. It was nothing elaborate. I wasn't reciting formal prayers or anything. It was just a heartfelt, raw plea. God, if you're listening, please help me, I thought desperately. I can't do this alone. In that moment, a shift occurred. It felt like my silent cry broke through a barrier, and suddenly the overwhelming darkness began to lift, making way for something entirely new. That's when everything truly began to change. Amid that deep darkness, a faint light flickered into existence. At first, it resembled a distant star, small and almost unreachable. But then, strangely enough, it expanded and enveloped me completely. This light was unlike any I had ever encountered. Not only was it brighter than the sun, but it also didn't hurt my eyes. It was as though I was experiencing this radiance on a deeper level, not just seeing it, but feeling it in my very core. Imagine plunging into a boundless ocean of shimmering light, every speck shining with such intensity. It was like that, but somehow more vibrant and real. Alongside this bright emergence was a profound wave of love and serenity that eclipsed anything I had ever known. This warm, unconditional affection surrounded me, causing all my fears and pain to evaporate in an instant. For the first time, I felt completely safe, like I truly belonged. It was akin to returning home after a long absence, finding that I was exactly where I was meant to be. The light wasn't just a static glow, it pulsed with life, as if it had its own consciousness. I sensed that this light knew my innermost self. It grasped every detail of my life, all my thoughts, the choices I had ever made. And still, it enveloped me with this love that had no conditions or limits. As this radiance intensified, I began to see something shifting around me. Initially, there were just blurry shapes, but soon they sharpened into focus. And then, standing in that incredible light, I saw him, my dad, David Lawson. He appeared just as I remembered him, before everything spiraled into chaos and led to his passing. He smiled at me, radiating warmth and understanding. I was utterly speechless, grappling with the reality of the moment. How could this be happening? 3 years had passed since my father left this world. I, a firm skeptic, found myself unexpectedly engulfed by an extraordinary light that seemed to envelop him. It was odd and yet undeniably real, more authentic than anything I had ever known. In that instant, the complexities of existence and the debates over divinity faded into the background, overshadowed by a connection I never thought I would feel again. As my father approached, his warmth radiated toward me, and I could sense his boundless love. Here I stood, caught in a moment of serenity, facing the man I believed I would never see again. The brilliant glow around him was astonishing, especially considering my memories of him, a man who battled profound despair and ultimately chose to end his life. Yet now, he beamed with an otherworldly light and a smile that hinted at a happiness I hadn't witnessed in his later years. "Connor," I managed to stammer, my voice shaky with disbelief. "How can this be happening?" He drew nearer, and a wave of comfort enveloped me, soothing the turmoil inside. "My boy," he answered, his voice strikingly familiar. "I can only imagine how surreal this is for you." I stood there, overwhelmed and lost for words, while a torrent of questions surged within me. Why did he leave us like that? How could he appear so serene after everything that had transpired? It was as if he sensed the storm of thought swirling in my mind. "I understand your confusion and pain, son," he said gently. "I know my actions brought so much hurt to you and your mother, and I genuinely regret that." Tears threatened to spill from my eyes. "You shouldn't even be here," I replied, my voice squeezing out a mixture of anguish and disbelief. "How can you stand in this radiant place after all that happened?" His smile remained steady. "Connor, everyone has a path to follow to reach paradise," he elaborated. "But everyone must first navigate a journey to truly cleanse themselves." My mind grappled with his perspective. "What does that mean?" I asked, wanting clarity. "It's not what you'd think of as hell, son. It isn't a place of eternal suffering. Instead, it's a process of healing," he explained. "After I transitioned, I had to confront every instance where I caused pain, especially to you and your mother. It felt as though my spirit was ripped apart just to be restored again, until I could finally find peace." As he shared, I sensed the honesty in his words. In this moment, it seemed that truth had no alternative but to emerge. "The darkness within you, Connor," he continued softly, "was rooted in your struggle with faith, but you've emerged stronger. You made it through, son. You asked for help, and it came." As I sat there, tears rolling down my cheeks, so many feelings flooded my mind. Anger, confusion, and all those lingering questions from the years gone by. "Why did you leave us, Dad? Why did you leave me?" I couldn't help but wonder. My father looked down, his voice soft yet weighed down by regret. "Son, I just didn't have what it took back then. The pain was overwhelming, and I couldn't find a way forward. But now I know. I was mistaken. There's always a glimmer of hope, always a way out. I just couldn't see it then." In that moment, a realization hit me. I understood that my father needed my forgiveness. To my own surprise, I felt ready to offer it. "I forgive you, Dad," I said, and instantly it was like a huge burden had been lifted off my shoulders. Saying those words felt transformative, as if something fractured within and healed all at once. It was as if a heavy stone I had carried for ages had finally disappeared. My spirit was mending, just like his. He wrapped me in his arms, and in that embrace, I could sense his love, his regrets, and the immense gratitude he felt for my forgiveness. It was a hug that spoke volumes beyond words. "Thank you, son," he replied. "But remember, you've still got a path to follow. Your journey is far from over." A part of me wanted to cling to him. After years filled with hurt and resentment, I finally felt a connection to my dad again. Yet, deep down, I knew he was right. There was still more ahead of me. With a final smile, my father started to walk away. "Always keep this in mind, Connor. Love is the most powerful force in the universe. Don't ever forget that." And just like that, he was gone. Yet the peace and love he left behind lingered, filling a space inside me that had felt so hollow. I sensed a profound change within. The forgiveness I had offered was as much a gift to myself as it was to him. Suddenly, I found myself in a radiant place, flooded with brightness. I could feel something monumental was on the horizon, and I was more than ready to embrace it. After my encounter with my father, the light around me intensified, pulling me deeper into this remarkable experience. Out of nowhere, I found myself in a scene beyond any description I could muster. Imagine the most breathtaking location you've ever encountered, then amplify that vision 1,000-fold. That still wouldn't capture what lay before me. Colors splashed across my vision, hues so vibrant they'd escape naming. The sky, if that's even the right term, shone with a deep, luminous blue, pulsing with life. Fields of flowers sparkled like they were glowing from within, each petal radiating beauty that transcended mere appearance. It wasn't merely the stunning beauty around me that captured my heart. It was the profound sense of being present in that moment. I felt an unmatched serenity, free from fear, worries, and pain. For the first time, I truly felt at home, and the love enveloping me, it was beyond words, an unconditional warmth that held me close, embracing every flaw and imperfection. As I soaked in the breathtaking scene, I realized I wasn't alone there. Others were present. Well, calling them people seems a bit off. They were luminous beings, radiating an astonishing light. They moved with such grace, it was as though they floated. A few stepped closer, and although no words were spoken, I felt an instinctive recognition. There were my grandparents, lost to me in my early years, and a childhood friend who had tragically passed away too soon. Their warmth and joy welcomed me in a way that was almost overwhelming. The most astonishing thing happened next. I found I could communicate with them without uttering a single word. Our thoughts and emotions intertwined effortlessly. There was an immediate understanding. In that moment, I grasped something profound. Death isn't an end, but rather a transformation into a far richer existence than I'd ever imagined. I yearned to stay in that space forever, but the idea of returning to my life, filled with its challenges, loomed over me. The burdens and limitations of everyday life felt nearly impossible to bear. How could I exchange this tranquility and love for the chaos back on Earth? Then a quiet reminder whispered within me about my purpose, that my journey wasn't complete. Just then I heard someone call my name. Turning around, I saw a radiant figure approaching. This one was different. His light was even more intense and compassionate, and I instinctively recognized him. It was Jesus. In that moment of realization, I was completely taken aback. He didn't resemble the images I had seen throughout my life. He had piercing blue-green eyes and wavy brown hair, simply clothed in a baptismal robe. Yet more than his physical form, it was an overwhelming wave of love and strength emanating from him that touched me deeply. He approached with a welcoming smile, and there was no need for introductions. I just knew him, and he certainly knew me. "Connor," he said, his voice reverberating not only in my ears, but resonating through my very essence. "Welcome." I had so many questions swirling in my head, but the words just wouldn't come. How could someone like me, a firm skeptic, be standing in front of Jesus? My entire worldview seemed to flip upside down. It felt almost like he could read my thoughts. With a gentle smile, he said, "I get that this is a lot to take in, Connor. Just know that your beliefs, or the absence of them, don't change what's happening right now. I'm really here, and you are too. It's real." After a moment, I finally found my voice. "But how can this even be? Why are you here when I never believed in you?" He responded, "Love isn't dependent on belief, my friend. I care for everyone, regardless of what they think. You're here for a reason, and it's something you need to grasp." Then, he extended his hand toward me. When I touched it, everything changed. Suddenly, I was given a glimpse into my life back on Earth. There was Isabel, the woman I was going to meet that same night, and children, my future kids. "Your time on Earth isn't finished yet, Connor," Jesus said softly. "You have a role to play, people to cherish, lives to impact." A rush of emotions flooded me. The idea of leaving this serene place seemed unbearable, yet the prospect of having my own family and a fulfilling life was incredibly appealing. "But how can I go back?" I asked. "Knowing what I know now, how do I even begin to share this?" He just smiled. "You won't always be able to explain every little detail, Connor. Some experiences are hard to articulate. What's vital is how you, from this point forward, live your life and take the love you discovered here with you. Spread it around. I could feel the pieces falling into place, but one nagging question remained. Gathering my courage, I asked, "Jesus, why do good people endure so much suffering? If God is love, why do we see so much pain?" He looked at me with such warmth. "Connor, suffering is intertwined with spiritual growth. Those with good hearts often face greater hurdles because they have the strength to rise above them. Pain cultivates empathy, fortifies inner resilience, and prepares people for larger purposes. This isn't a punishment, it's an opportunity to grow. Anyone who endures hardship will ultimately discover true peace and joy. And remember, you're never alone in your pain. I'm always right here with you, even if you can't see me." His words struck a chord deep within me. I started to shift my perspective on suffering. "It's time for you to return, Connor," Jesus said kindly. "Hold on to what you've felt here. Share this love with the world," he had said. I barely had a chance to process those words when suddenly I felt myself being pulled away. The brightness around me began to dim, and just before everything faded, I caught a glimpse of Connor's kind smile. In an instant, I was back on Earth. The transition was jarring. One minute I was enveloped in warmth and light, then I was jolted back into my own body. Pain washed over me, almost disorienting, and all I could hear was the relentless beep of machines measuring my heartbeat. I fought to pry my eyelids open. They felt as if they were weighed down. After a moment, I managed to blink against the glaring hospital lights. They were harsh compared to the soothing glow I'd just left behind. As my vision cleared, I recognized a familiar face, Ava. Her eyes were red and swollen, clearly marked by tears. But when she saw that I had woken up, relief spread across her features like a blanket. "Connor," she exclaimed, seizing my hand. "You're awake! Oh, thank goodness!" I wanted to say something, but my throat felt like sandpaper. Ava quickly found a cup with a straw and helped ease some water into my mouth. What happened?" I croaked, barely managing to speak. With a heavy heart, Ava filled me in. "You were in a terrible car accident," she said through tears. "A drunk driver hit you head on. It was so severe that the doctors had doubts about whether you'd pull through. You've been in a coma for 3 days, Connor." The gravity of her words sank in, and I couldn't comprehend how long I had been out. I felt like the experience had been both an eternity and a fleeting moment. Gradually, more details trickled in: broken ribs, a concussion, surgery for internal bleeding. The doctors repeatedly mentioned it was a miracle I survived. That word lingered in my mind, forcing me to reconsider everything I thought I understood about miracles. Days melted together during my hospital stay, and I chose to keep quiet about my experience. How could I possibly articulate the profound love I felt, the time spent with my dad, or the moment I conversed with Jesus? But there was Ava, steadfast by my side. She rearranged her commitments just to stay with me, providing unwavering support that meant everything in the world to me. Seeing Isabel reminded me of the love I discovered in that extraordinary moment earlier. After 2 weeks in the hospital, I emerged as a changed man. Sure, my body still had a long road ahead when it came to healing, but it was my emotional and mental states that underwent a dramatic transformation. Once an adamant non-believer, I now understood there was an entire realm of existence beyond the tangible. Suddenly, I cherished the essence of love, life, and the bonds we share. Each second became precious, and every interaction felt like a chance to resonate with the love I'd experienced. With Isabel supporting me, I set off on a new chapter, one that promised to be unlike anything I had lived before. The months that followed my hospital release were filled with introspection and profound changes. Although my physical recovery was slow and sometimes grueling, thank you physical therapy, it paled in comparison to the shifts happening inside me. After that brush with death, my perspective experienced a complete overhaul. The things I once deemed essential, like money, lost their significance in the light of the genuine relationships I began to appreciate. As I navigated this new reality, my bond with Isabel blossomed. She remained by my side as I healed, and it didn't take long for my feelings for her to deepen. To me, she embodied the unconditional love I had sensed during my near-death experience. Just 6 months after that incident, I proposed to her, and the joy shining in her eyes when she accepted was a moment I will never forget. My attitude towards work evolved as well. I still excelled in my role as an engineer, but that fierce ambition to climb higher in the corporate world just wasn't there anymore. Instead, I found myself motivated to channel my skills into initiatives that would benefit others. I started engaging in engineering projects aimed at enhancing lives in low-income areas. A significant transformation also took place regarding my spiritual beliefs. Previously, I'd been quite skeptical of organized religion, yet now I found myself embracing a more spiritual existence. While I didn't affiliate with any particular faith, I developed habits of meditation and quiet reflection. Those moments of peace allowed me to reconnect with that profound love and serenity I had felt during my extraordinary experience. Diving into the world of near-death experiences and various philosophies really changed my perspective on life and death. It was quite reassuring to see that I wasn't alone. Many people have walked similar paths. With this newfound knowledge, I found myself much more open-minded and respectful of the diverse spiritual journeys others take. My attitude towards death took a dramatic turn. Sure, I still have some fear, but the crippling anxiety I once felt has been replaced with a comforting realization. Death is simply a part of life's cycle. This understanding enhanced my appreciation for the here and now. Suddenly, I found joy in the little things, like the way a sunset lights up the sky, the sound of a child giggling, or the warmth of a hug. I made a conscious choice to be present, to soak in every moment, and to cherish the people around me. Yet, it hasn't always been easy. Whenever I tried discussing my experience with others, I noticed some raised eyebrows. A few friends didn't know how to handle my transformation, and occasionally, even my family seemed taken aback by my new outlook. Along the way, there were certainly moments of doubt where I questioned the reality of it all. Some days, it feels like a dream. In those times, I cling to those powerful feelings and the peace they brought me. They always help ground me. One of the biggest lessons I took away was learning to let go of grudges. The forgiveness I found from my father during those tough days started to spill over into other areas of my life. I realized that holding on to anger was just a burden. Fast forward a few years, and I was building a life with Ava that felt like a dream come true. We brought 2 wonderful children into the world, and with each birth, I was reminded of life's true wonders. My focus became raising them with love and compassion. Reflecting back, I can pinpoint October 5th, 2015 as the pivotal moment that shifted everything for me. That car accident that almost sealed my fate became the catalyst for a new beginning, one infused with purpose and meaning. Now it's been over 8 years since that incredible event, yet I still find myself thinking about it often. Some days it feels like it was just yesterday, being enveloped in that radiant light, sharing profound moments with my Father and Jesus. Other times it feels like a distant memory, a story from another life. But what remains constant is that this experience has fundamentally changed who I am and how I perceive the world around me. At 45, I'm reflecting on a journey that continues to shape me. My relationship with Ava is a source of immense happiness and personal growth. Our children, who are 5 and 7 now, are daily reminders of the joy to be found in life. Watching them learn and develop has been one of the greatest gifts I've experienced. On the work side of things, I've managed to carve out a balance between my career as an engineer and my passion for community-focused projects. It's truly fulfilling to direct my skills toward making a difference in people's lives, something that gives me more satisfaction than I ever found in my previous role. Then there's my spiritual path, which remains core to who I am. While I don't subscribe to any one faith, I regularly engage in meditation and prayer. These moments of stillness help me reconnect with the profound sense of peace I experienced when I faced my mortality. One of the most rewarding aspects of this journey has been the opportunity to open up about my experiences, not to persuade anyone, but simply to share. I've been part of small support groups where I can connect with others who have navigated similar hardships, and it's astonishing how much healing arises from just listening to each other. Life isn't always perfect, though. I still grapple with my share of challenges. While some days can feel heavy with frustration or sadness, I've learned to view these struggles differently. They don't last forever, and there's a greater purpose woven through it all. A key takeaway I've absorbed is about the essence of love. The unconditional love I felt during my near-death experience was profound, and I strive to infuse that into my daily interactions. Although it can be a challenge, the effort to maintain that love is undeniably worthwhile. Additionally, I've come to realize how interconnected we all are. In that pivotal moment, I sensed a deep unity with the universe that has heightened my awareness of the world around me, motivating me to live more harmoniously with nature. People are often curious if I now fear death. Honestly, I don't fear it at all. Instead, I have developed a fierce appreciation for life itself. Each day feels like a gift, an opportunity to express love, evolve, and make an impact. If there's one essence I'd like to share from my journey, it's this. Love is undoubtedly the strongest force in existence. It transcends life and death, mends wounds, and brings us closer together. So live with love in your heart. Extend compassion to those around you, and practice forgiveness often. Life is simply too fleeting for anger, fear, or resentment. There was a moment in my life that shook me to my core. It made me realize there's way more to existence than the physical world around us. At the heart of everything, there's this profound mystery brimming with love and meaning. I can't claim to have all the answers. Who really does? But I've grown to accept that uncertainty is just part of the journey. It's fascinating, really. As I think about the future, I can't help but feel a mix of gratitude and excitement. Tomorrow is a total unknown, but each new day feels like a precious gift, an opportunity to learn, love, and grow. And for that, my heart is full. My journey is just unfolding, and there's so much left to discover. Looking back, that night in April 2021 wasn't the conclusion of my tale. It was merely the beginning of something vibrant and meaningful, one that's infused with purpose and connection. I'll forever hold a sense of appreciation for that.